Excuses don't produce results. Execution does. You can have the best ideas in the world, the biggest dreams, and the most detailed plans. But if you never execute, none of it matters. The world doesn't pay you for what you intend to do. It pays you for what you actually get done. You can talk about your goals all day long. You can write them in your journal, post them online, or share them with your friends. But until you start taking consistent action, it's just noise. The truth is, excuses might sound good to you, but they don't change your situation. You can explain why you're not where you want to be, but that explanation doesn't move you an inch closer to your goal. Only execution does that. Every successful person you admire didn't get there because they made fewer mistakes than you. They got there because they acted, adjusted, and executed no matter what. They didn't have time to sit around feeling sorry for themselves. They understood that action produces clarity, and clarity produces results. You don't learn by thinking about doing something, you learn by doing it. You can't get stronger by talking about going to the gym. You have to actually lift the weight. You can't grow your business by saying you'll start it someday. You have to take that first uncomfortable step today. Execution is where the lessons live. It's where growth happens. Some people are trapped in a cycle of excuses that sound like logic. They say, I'm waiting for the right time, or I just need more resources, or I'll start when I feel ready. But here's the truth. There is no right time, and you'll never have all the resources you think you need. The perfect moment doesn't exist. Those who wait for the perfect time end up waiting forever. Those who act create their own opportunities. The gap between you and the life you want isn't talent or luck. It's execution. It's the discipline to act on your goals when it's inconvenient, when you're tired, when no one believes in you. Excuses are comfort zones in disguise. They make you feel safe because they give you a reason not to move. They tell you it's okay to stay where you are because things are hard or unfair. But nothing grows in comfort. Growth requires movement. Progress requires faith. You've got to stop letting excuses control your decisions. You've got to stop feeding the part of you that's afraid to fail. Because as long as you make excuses, you give up your power. The moment you take ownership, the moment you say, it's on me, that's when your life starts to change. Think about it. Every excuse you make is a brick in a wall between you and your potential. I don't have time. Brick. I don't have support. I'm too tired. Brick. Before you know it, you build a wall so high that you can't even see your dream anymore. But every time you choose execution over excuses, you take a brick down. Every action, no matter how small, chips away at that wall. Eventually, if you stay consistent, the wall comes down, and that's when you realize you were always capable. You were just talking yourself out of it. You have to be honest with yourself. Do you really want it, or do you just like saying you want it? Because if you really want it, your actions will prove it. People say, I want success, but they're not willing to wake up early, stay up late, sacrifice their comfort, or grind when it's inconvenient. They want the outcome without the process. But execution is the process. It's the daily grind, the unseen effort, the quiet discipline that separates winners from complainers. The results don't come because of luck. They come because someone refused to stop executing. When you start executing, you stop waiting for external motivation. You realize that the energy you're waiting for comes after you start moving. You don't wait to feel ready. You act, and that action builds confidence. Every time you execute, even in a small way, you're training your mind to believe that you can. Execution is not just about doing, it's about becoming. It's about developing a mindset that says, no matter what happens, I will find a way. That mindset will take you further than any excuse ever could. You've got to ask yourself, how many more years are you willing to let slip by explaining why you haven't started? How many more opportunities will you let pass while you're waiting for conditions to be perfect? Hey, excuses don't pay bills. Excuses don't open doors. Excuses don't build legacies. Execution does. It doesn't matter if it's messy, slow, or imperfect. It matters that you move. Every time you execute, you send a message to yourself and to the world that you're serious. You're not just a dreamer, you're a doer. There's a difference between talking about success and committing to it. Talkers focus on what they wish would happen. Executives focus on what they can make happen. Talkers need motivation to start. Executives rely on discipline to keep going. Don't wait for perfect conditions. Too many people are sitting on their dreams, waiting for everything to line up before they move. They say things like, I'll start when I have more time, or I'll go for it when the situation is better. But here's the truth. Conditions will never be perfect. There will always be challenges, always be obstacles, always be reasons to delay. Waiting for the right moment is a trap that keeps you stuck in hesitation and fear. The people who win in life aren't the ones who wait for things to be easy. They're the ones who move when it's hard. They start with what they have, where they are, and they make progress one step at a time. Perfection is an illusion that kills momentum. You can spend years trying to line up the right plan, the right money, the right support, but if you never act, you'll never learn. The perfect time is not a time on the clock. It's a decision in your mind. The moment you decide to move, to execute, to act, that's when your perfect time begins. Success isn't about timing. It's about courage. It's about doing it even when things are uncertain. The truth is, every person who ever achieved something great started before they felt ready. They took that leap, not because everything was clear, but because they believed clarity would come through action. When you wait for perfect conditions, you hand your power to the environment. You let the weather, the economy, other people's opinions, or your own fears control your future. But when you take action, even in imperfect circumstances, you prove to yourself that you are in control. You stop being a victim of your situation and start being the creator of your results. You stop reacting and start building. Every small step you take in imperfection teaches you more than endless planning ever could. Think about it. Every great story began with someone who moved before things made sense. The entrepreneur who started a business with no investors. The student who studied under a streetlight. The athlete who trained without proper equipment. They didn't wait. They worked. They understood that execution brings opportunities that waiting never will. When you move, you create motion. And motion attracts momentum. People see your effort. Opportunities arise. Doors are open. But none of that happens while you're sitting still waiting for perfect condition. The reality is perfection is a moving target. You'll never have all the answers. You'll never feel completely ready. You'll never know every step before you start walking. And that's okay. Life isn't about certainty. It's about growth. Growth happens in the doing, not the waiting. If you wait for everything to be comfortable, you'll spend your entire life standing still. The pain of imperfection is far less than the regret of inaction. There's nothing worse than looking back and realizing you missed your chance because you were waiting for a moment that never came. Stop telling yourself you need more time. The time is now. Stop telling yourself you need more resources. You have enough to start. Stop telling yourself you need more support. You are enough to begin. The people who make history don't wait for conditions to be right. They create conditions that become right through persistence. Every successful person started with uncertainty, with doubt, with fear. The difference is they moved anyway. They made mistakes, they failed, they learned, and they grew stronger. When you act despite imperfection, you build resilience. You teach yourself that you can handle the unknown. You learn to adapt, to problem solve, to push through. That skill, the ability to keep going when things aren't ideal. That's what separates the strong from the weak. You can plan all you want, but nothing prepares you like experience. You can read every book, watch every video, but until you put your hands to work, it's just theory. Execution turns theory into mastery. Imperfect action is better than perfect inaction. Don't be fooled by the illusion that successful people had everything figured out before they started. Most of them did. They learned by doing, they failed publicly, they made mistakes. But every mistake taught them something that waiting never could. If you're afraid of failing, understand this. Failure is part of the process. The only true failure is refusing to start. Every great success is built on the foundation of imperfect start. You can refine as you go, but you can't refine something that doesn't exist. Life rewards movement. The universe responds to boldness. When you take that first step, even if it's shaky, something shifts, you activate possibility. You show yourself in the world that you're serious. You might stumble, you might fall, but you'll move forward. Standing still keeps you exactly where you are. Imperfect progress still moves you closer to your dream, and every bit of movement counts. Winners act while others talk. It's the difference. Everybody says they want to win. Everybody says they want success. But when it's time to move, most people freeze. And they talk about their plans. They talk about their plan, what they're going to do. But talk doesn't build results. Action does. You can't speak your way into greatness. You have to grind your way there. Talking feels good because it gives the illusion of progress. You sound motivated, you sound confident, but when you look around, nothing is changing because words don't create momentum. Execution does. The people who make a real difference in life are the ones who act while everyone else is still planning, still doubting, still talking about what they could do if the conditions were right. Winners don't wait for inspiration, they move with discipline. They don't care about being seen. They care about getting it done. They understand that talk is cheap and time is precious. Every second spent talking about your dreams is a second you could spend working toward them. While you're explaining your ideas, someone else out there is executing them. While you're telling the world what you're about to do, someone else is already doing it, and by the time you start, they're miles ahead. That's the reality. You can't fake execution. You can't talk your way into results. The world doesn't reward promises, it rewards performance. There's something powerful about quiet work. Real winners don't need to announce every move. Their results speak for them. They understand that energy wasted on talking is energy taken away from doing. You don't need to convince anyone you're serious, just show them. Let your consistency make the noise. Let your growth, your improvement, and your results speak louder than your voice ever could. When you focus on execution, you separate yourself from the crowd. You become the kind of person who delivers, not just dreams. Talking is easy because it requires no risk. You can talk big and never fail because words can't be measured against reality. But action exposes you. When you move, you open yourself up to failure, to criticism, to the possibility that things won't go as planned. That's why so many people stay in the comfort zone of talking. It's safe, but safety never builds greatness. Winners step out of that comfort zone because they understand that real growth only happens when you act. You'll never know what you're capable of until you start doing. Talking about it will never reveal your true strength. Execution will. You have to decide what kind of person you want to be. The one who talks about what could happen or the one who makes things happen. The truth is, your dreams don't care about how passionate you sound when you talk about them. They care about what you're willing to do for them. You can be inspired. You can be motivated. But if you don't execute, nothing changes. Action is the only proof of commitment. You can't just say you want success. Your daily habits have to prove it. The way you wake up, the way you grind, the way you sacrifice, that's what tells the world how bad you want it. Think about all the time wasted in conversation about goals instead of execution toward them. People talk about starting a business, but they never make the call, never create the plan, never take the risk. They talk about getting fit, but they never show up to the gym. They talk about changing their life, but they never take that first uncomfortable step. Winners don't spend all day talking about what's wrong or what they plan to do. They act, they take one step, then another, and then another, until the vision becomes reality. That's how progress is made. Not through promises, but through persistence. When you act, you build momentum. When you talk, you stay still. Every action, no matter how small, pushes you forward. It gives you experience, it gives you feedback, it gives you strength. Talking about your dream doesn't make it real. Doing the work does. The more you act, the less you need to talk, because the results become your evidence. Winners don't spend their energy trying to convince people they can do it. They just do it. They let their consistency silence the noise of doubt around them. You've got to be careful not to fall in love with the sound of your own ambition. Some people mistake excitement for progress. They get caught up in talking about their goals because it feels like they're doing something, but deep down, they know they're avoiding the work. They want the reputation of success without the sacrifice. They want to be known as someone who's driven, but they don't want to go through the grind that actually proves it. Winners, on the other hand, fall in love with the process, not the applause. They don't chase validation, they chase results. When you take action, even without knowing everything, you gain real power. Action gives you data. It teaches you what works and what doesn't. Your life changes when you take ownership. The moment you stop blaming others, stop pointing fingers, and stop waiting for someone else to fix your problems, that's when everything starts to shift. Most people don't realize how much power they give away every time they make an excuse or blame their circumstances. They say things like, I can't. That's not my fault. And what they're really saying is, I have no control. When you live like that, you trap yourself. You surrender your power to everything outside of you, to people, to situations, to love. But when you take ownership, when you look in the mirror and say, oh, no matter what's happening around me, I'm responsible for how I respond, that's when your life begins to change. Ownership is freedom because it puts the power back in your hand. Taking ownership doesn't mean everything that happens to you is your fault. It means you accept responsibility for what you can control. Your attitude, your effort, your mindset, your action. Life will throw storms your way. You can't control the weather, but you can control how you sail the ship. Some people spend their whole lives waiting for calm seas that never come, while others learn to steer through the waves. The difference is ownership. Winners don't complain about the wind, they adjust their sails. They don't say, I can't, because life is unfair. They say, life may be unfair, but I'm still going to win. That mentality changes everything. When you start taking ownership, you stop being a victim. You stop seeing yourself as someone who life happens to and start seeing yourself as someone who can shape it. Victims complain. Owners create. Victims focus on what's missing. Owners focus on what's possible. The moment you take ownership, your brain shifts from excuses to solutions. You stop asking, why is this happening to me? And start asking, what can I do about it? That's where power lives. That's where growth starts. Some people spend years blaming their upbringing, their environment, or their lack of resources. But there are people who came from worse situations who still made it because they took ownership. They didn't wait for someone to rescue them. They rescued themselves. They didn't wait for the perfect opportunity. They created one. Taking ownership doesn't mean you have everything you need. It means you figure it out with what you have. You stop seeing obstacles as reasons to quit and start seeing them as challenges to overcome. When I was struggling, I used to think life was unfair. I used to look around and compare myself to others who had more, but that mindset kept me stuck. It wasn't until I said, enough, this is all me, that things started to change. I realized nobody was coming to save me. I had to become the hero of my own story. I had to stop talking about what I didn't have and start using what I did. That's what ownership does. It forces you to dig deeper. It makes you realize that your success isn't about what you're given. It's about what you create. When you take ownership, you stop looking for shortcuts. You stop expecting others to do the work for you. You stop complaining that it's hard because you understand that hard is part of the process. Ownership makes you disciplined because you know nobody's going to hold you accountable but you. There's power in saying, if it's going to happen, it's up to me. That mindset transforms average people into champions. It creates hunger, focus, and resilience. You stop wasting energy blaming others and start using that energy to build. Taking ownership means being honest with yourself. It means looking at your results and asking, did I really give my best? It's easy to blame the teacher, the boss, the system, or the situation. But the truth is, sometimes you didn't execute at your highest level. Ownership means you face that truth without excuses. It's not about beating yourself up. It's about growing up. It's about saying, I can do better, and then proving it through action. Growth doesn't come from denial. It comes from accountability. When you take ownership, you build confidence because now you know that you control your future. You don't need to wait for things to get better. You can make them better. You start trusting yourself because you see the results of your effort. Every time you take responsibility and follow through, you strengthen your belief in your ability to overcome. That belief becomes momentum. It becomes fuel. You stop doubting whether you can and start proving that you can. Ownership also changes how you deal with failure. When you own your mistakes, you learn from them. You don't run from failure or hide from it, you face it. Because you understand that failure is not the end. It's information, it's feedback. It's a sign that you're trying, that's your emotion. People who avoid ownership avoid failure, but they also avoid success. Excuses waste potential. Every time you make an excuse, you trade possibility for comfort. You trade growth for safety. You trade your dream for a story that explains why you haven't reached it yet. Excuses are easy because they protect your pride, but they also limit your progress. They allow you to feel better about not trying, but they cost you everything you could have been. The truth is, no one ever reached greatness by explaining why they couldn't do it. Excuses might sound good to other people, but deep down, you know they're lies you tell yourself to stay comfortable. You can't build your best life on excuses because excuses keep you stuck exactly where you are. Every person on this planet has reasons why they can quit, why they can fail, why they can stop. Everyone faces obstacles. The difference between people who win and people who stay average is that winners choose to rise above the excuses. They don't waste energy explaining why something can't be done. They put that energy into figuring out how it can be done. Excuses kill creativity. They shut down problem solving. They silence the part of you that's meant to fight. The more you repeat them, the more you believe them. And soon you convince yourself that your limits are real when they're not. Excuses are not walls, they're cages, and you built them yourself. The same way you built them, you can tear them down. Most people don't realize how much potential they waste every single day because of small, quiet excuses. I'm too tired. It's not the right time. I don't have enough support. I'll do it tomorrow. Each one feels harmless, but together they become a pattern, a mindset, a lifestyle. You start to train your mind to settle. You get comfortable with almost trying. But potential doesn't live in comfort. It lives in struggle. It lives in the moments when you do it anyway, when you show up even when you don't feel like it. Every excuse you remove brings you closer to your power. Excuses don't only hold you back. They rob the world of what you could give. Someone needs your gift. Someone needs your story, your strength, your creativity, your talent. But they'll never see it if you keep hiding behind excuses. Every time you say, I can't, you deny yourself and others the chance to experience your greatness. Think about it. How many lives could you change if you stopped talking yourself out of your potential? How many dreams could you bring to life if you stopped explaining why it's not possible? Excuses are selfish because they keep your gift locked away. There's always going to be a reason not to do it. Life will always throw challenges your way. You'll always be busy, tired, unsure, afraid. If you wait for perfect conditions, you'll wait forever. Excuses feed off fear. Fear of failure, fear of rejection, fear of not being up. But what you don't realize is that fear loses its power when you act. The moment you stop letting excuses control you, you take control of your life. You stop reacting and start creating. You stop living in the shadow of what could have been and start building what will be. The most successful people in the world aren't the ones with perfect circumstances. They're the ones who made no excuses. They used what they had. They worked with what was available. They worked with what was available. They failed, they struggled, they failed, but they kept going. Excuses would have given them a reason to quit, but execution gave them a reason to rise. You have that same power. You have that same ability to choose action over excuse, progress over procrastination, discipline over comfort. Every time you push through an excuse, you get stronger. You build resilience. You build belief in yourself. You can't move forward while you're holding on to excuses. It's like trying to run a race with weights tied to your legs. You can have ambition, you can have talent, but if you keep letting excuses weigh you down, you'll never see what you're capable of. You gotta let them go. You gotta tell yourself, oh, no more. Stop saying you can't because of your past. Stop saying you can't because of where you come from. Stop saying you can't because you don't have enough. Those are stories that keep you small. The truth is you can, you just have to decide to. Excuses are not facts. They're choices. And once you realize that, you can choose something different. When you make an excuse, you think you're saving yourself from pain. But what you're really doing is guaranteeing regret. Because one day, you'll look back and realize that the only thing standing between you and your dream was a story you kept repeating. You'll see people who had less than you, faced more than you, but they made it because they refused to make excuses. They acted while you rationalized. They sacrificed while you waited. And the difference wasn't talent, it was mindset. You can't reach your full potential until you stop explaining why you haven't.